The voiceover off-screen tells the story of ancient Rome, which reached its peak in the 2nd century AD, when it controlled a vast territory from Britain to Ethiopia. It was during this time that the most enigmatic writing in human history came into existence. 10 scholars of that era, each with different levels of understanding of our reality, came together to record their knowledge in the form of a book. If these manuscripts had become public knowledge, it would have led to the downfall of the Roman Empire and a completely different course for our world. The mission of the 10th Legion was to intercept these scrolls and deliver them to Rome. However, everything did not go as planned. Several people in a cave are looking at a man. He has regained consciousness after being wounded. One of those present requests permission to examine his wound, and the injured man asks, where has he seen this doctor before? And he receives a strange answer, perhaps in past lives. The night passes. The wounded man, after resting, exits the cave. Roman soldiers greet him by the name of Maximus. He enters a tent and sits in front of a military leader. On the table, there are several objects, but the man looks at them with a puzzled expression. Pages with unreadable script are spread out before him. Suddenly, scenes from different time periods flash before his eyes. The military leader addresses the man and says that, according to the doctor, his memory will soon return to him. He is Legate Maximus, leading the 10th Legion of the Roman Empire. He warned Maximus that something was amiss with this scroll, and Caesar wouldn't have sent an entire legion just for nothing. It should not have been taken along. It would have been better to destroy it on the spot. A soldier who entered reports that a rebellion has erupted in Jerusalem. The military leader says that it's not safe to stay here, but they need orders. They will only obey Maximus. The legion travels along a forest road and comes under attack. Maximus is shot in the back and dies. In the next scene, Maximus awakens in Spain in the year 1600, chained in a cave. He sees his doctor from Rome, who looks like his identical twin. The doppelganger asks him to return the scroll to Jerusalem, and then everything will fall into place. He will remember and understand everything. Maximus inquires, what is this scroll? The doppelganger begins to explain that within every individual there exists an inner mechanism, an inner self, which is currently in a dormant state. People believe they are living in the real world and don't even suspect that they are asleep. In this scroll is a code, which, if read correctly, awakens a person from their slumber and elevates them to a different level of perceiving the world. While people sleep, they are akin to the state of a cocoon from which a butterfly must emerge. Then, the doppelganger abruptly interrupts the narrative and tells Maximus that he will be released now. They take the man out of the prison, put him in a boat, and they sail away from the fortress. Morning comes. Maximus is brought onto a ship. He takes out the scroll and tries to examine it, but a sailor hinders him. Then a sack is thrown over his head. Upon waking once again, he sees the scroll in the hands of another prisoner. The prisoner starts reading the ancient text. Suddenly, Maximus is overwhelmed by intense fear. He even thought he was dying. Then he is thrown into a space composed of infinite love, light, and warmth. And then they pull him onto the deck and throw him into the sea. And again, he awakens. This time in Belarus in 1812. He lies on the ground, and nearby, military commands can be heard. He realizes he is on a battlefield and rushes through the forest. Suddenly, he sees a small house ahead, but in an instant, he gets a blow to the head. A woman hits him. She ties him up and drags him into a hangar. He asks for help, and she provides it. Max hears singing and follows the voice. The woman offers him food and tells him that her husband was conscripted for war a long time ago and never returned. Max approaches her and embraces her by the shoulders. Waking up the next day to the sounds of gunshots, he takes a rifle and goes into the forest. There, he once again encounters his doppelganger. The doppelganger says they need to move forward. Max asks to be left in peace. He wants a peaceful life. To which the doppelganger responds, "This is not life. You only think it's real because you don't remember anything else. You love this woman, but what exactly do you love about her? Her young and beautiful body. That body is just a temporary vestment, like clothing you change often. So who do you love, Max?" The doppelganger continues, "Unfortunate people, they only live for the sensations of their own bodies and spend their entire lives tending to it." It's as if Max got a dog, and all his thoughts were only about the dog. He cared for it, fed it, and forgot about himself. And then, he even began to identify himself with that dog. The body is not him, it's just the dog. Max shoots and asks the doppelganger to disappear from his life. Time passes, a child is born to the couple, and he lives a happy, simple life. But returning home one day, he finds his wife murdered and a scroll on the table. In despair, he grabs an axe and tries to destroy the accursed manuscript. The next time, Maximus wakes up in the Wild West. He is a cowboy and dies at the hands of an Indian. In the next life, he becomes a soldier in the colonial army in the jungle and dies from a poisoned arrow. Then, he is a German soldier who dies from enemy bullets in a ruined city. But before his death, he desperately shouts that he agrees to deliver the scroll to Jerusalem, and Max regains consciousness in the basement of an old house in Russia in 1917. He goes to an audience at the palace, where he meets his doppelganger. The doppelganger says he's glad that Maximus agreed to deliver the scroll to Jerusalem. Then he starts a cinematograph. Maximus sees all his past lives and deaths. Maximus is overwhelmed by a sense of horror at what he sees. The doppelganger explains that it's just a film, a screen, a fabric, a reflection, a movie. Only back then, it was real for him, and now he's looking at the lives he lived from the outside. Furthermore, what's happening to him now is also a film. Can he still not understand? To which Maximus asks, what is he supposed to understand? The doppelganger continues, it's a film, and Maximus must play his role correctly. Then it will be a good film, a good life, and the director will be satisfied. A person goes through thousands of lives. He lives them. In one life, he's a king, in another, a slave, in the next, a noble knight, and then a terrible killer. The entire universe is hidden within a person. He laughs and cries, gains and loses. You have to live life to the fullest. That's the only way a person can evolve to a new level. And then there will be a game with him. And at that point, it no longer matters whether you're a hero or a villain. Max asks, who is him? Their conversation is interrupted by someone who enters and reports that a revolution has started. Gunshots can be heard outside, and they're breaking down the door, but Max manages to escape. Outside the door, he sees a long corridor and hears a German march. Then he sees himself in the uniform of a Nazi officer, marching in front of a line of Jews. He returns to the room and sees his doppelganger again, who says that in 20 minutes, a messenger will come for him. The one who created this entire film, the entire world. The doppelganger says he has come to help him, but Maximus doesn't believe him and shoots the doppelganger. Then he takes the scroll in his hands and sets it on fire. And once again, awakening in another life and a new role, Max finds himself bound, sitting in a chair. A doctor enters the room. When Max asks who he is, the man tells him to rest. They lead him through the corridors of a psychiatric clinic. Around him are mentally unstable people he encountered in his past lives. Max recognizes them and can't understand. What was it? Maybe he's truly insane? The doctor explains that these are the consequences of treatment. Everything will soon return to normal. He was brought here 6 months ago with acute psychosis. Max claimed he needed to find a scroll called the Zohar and return it to Jerusalem. The doctor hands him a diary where he recorded everything Max had said about his past lives and tells him that the hallucinations will pass soon and he'll be able to live as he did before. Max looks through the pages and asks, "Who am I?" The doctor replies his name is Max. He was born in 1968. He works as an engineer. He has a daughter and a wife. Then, the doctor explains that they invented the doppelganger. It's a method of therapy. An image is introduced into the patient's consciousness to help them cope with stress. But now, it's no longer necessary. Welcome to real life. Max's pregnant wife visits him, the same one who appeared in his dreams. The doctor told her that he has shown very good progress and he will be discharged soon. One day, the patients in the psychiatric clinic gather around the TV to watch the news. The host asks questions to a professor who talks about his near-death experience. He says he felt an infinite sense of love, and Max remembers his own feelings while reading the manuscript in one of his past lives. A year later, Max is getting ready to be discharged. He thanks the doctor and says it feels like he's been reborn. On the day of his release from the clinic, Max wakes up and sees his doppelganger again. The doppelganger says he heard that Max is being discharged. The man attacks him in a fit of rage. The other patients cheer. But suddenly, Max sees that there's no one around. He rushes to escape. The man runs to the seashore. He's completely alone. Then Max decides to return to the clinic and sees his doppelganger again. The doppelganger invites him to sit down and pour some vodka. Max tries to prove to the doppelganger that he's just a hallucination and exists only in his mind. The doppelganger laughs and asks, "Did the doctor tell you that?" Max asks, "Where did everyone disappear to?" To which the doppelganger responds that he has nothing and no one. No family, no wife. He made it all up. Max asks the doppelganger to tell him who he is. The doppelganger explains that when Rome ruled Judea, two worlds, two worldviews, two philosophies collided, Rome and Jerusalem. Max led a legion whose task was to find and destroy the Zohar scrolls. These scrolls contradicted the Roman doctrine based on the material development of humanity. The scrolls described a different path, which posed a threat to the development of Rome. Fortunately, the Zohar scrolls were moved to a safe place. Max only managed to intercept one of several scrolls. He knew that the scroll possessed hidden power and attempted to use it for his own interests, which caused him to lose his memory. The doppelganger hands the scroll to him again. Max asks, "How can I get to Jerusalem?" In the following scenes, he is already inside the ruined temple in Jerusalem. This is the very place where Max was supposed to go. This is where the scroll should be returned. The doppelganger reminds him of their conversation when he explained that Rome took the opposite path to what was described in the scrolls. All of modern civilization is the result of the Roman path. America and Europe completely copied the Roman system, but it's a dead-end path. The harrowing, painful history of humanity is coming to an end. They could have lived happily. He once again implores Max to return the scroll. Max is the last one. Everyone is waiting for him. Suddenly, Max sees the attachments of the physical world, his wife. She calls him home and asks who he is looking at. He can still see the doppelganger, but the doppelganger doesn't exist. Max starts to scream. He doesn't understand the logic of what's happening. What was the purpose of all these tortures? He still hasn't understood anything. The doppelganger tries to persuade Max to let go of the attachments of the physical world and free himself from the chains of endless reincarnation, while his wife asks him to stay with her in the earthly world, which she believes is the only truth. Everyone is calling Max to their side. Max shoots the doppelganger, but it turns out he killed his wife. A gunshot is heard. Darkness. Max opens his eyes. He is back to the first encounter with the doppelganger in the cave. The familiar dialogue about past lives ensues. Then the movie scenes shift to the present day. The news announcer reports that in one of the caves in Jerusalem, an ancient manuscript has been discovered, which strongly resembles the mysterious Zohar book. It answers the most frequently asked question: what is the meaning of human existence? Thanks to this scroll, scientists have managed to read about how our so-called initial state was like an embryo in the womb of a mother, unable to feel the perfection it was in. To achieve this, it was necessary to split it into numerous parts. According to the Zohar book, humanity has already reached the maximum point of fragmentation. The spring is stretched to its maximum, and now the reverse process of assembly is underway. Returning to its source, these parts acquire new organs for perceiving reality compared to the original embryo. In this union, each one perceives this perfection not only from their own perspective, but through the other particles already connected to it. And this is billions of times more than the initial perception. This is the intention, for us to align with the perfection that we did not perceive initially. In the background, Max briefly appears.